Are you ready? Yeah. Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee, which is a multi-hybrid meeting. I'm Councillor John Roberts, and I will be chairing the meeting. In addition to committee members, we also have officers joining us to assist with our discussions, together with members of the public making representation, and I'll introduce you later, who will be introduced at the appropriate time. I can confirm that the committee officer has conducted a sound check before the start of the meeting, so I assume everyone can hear me. Right. The meeting will be live streamed and recorded and will be available for viewing after the meeting. Should the live streaming fail, the meeting will continue and the recording will be available through the council's website following the conclusion of the meeting. For those wishing to speak in the chamber, please raise your hand. For those on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. We will alternate between speakers in the chamber and on Zoom. For those attending remotely, please note that those in the chamber will be unable to use the chat facility. Committee members who are attending remotely are required to leave the camera on throughout the debate and when voting in order to maintain the integrity of the decision-making process. If you need to leave the meeting temporarily, pop a message in the chat function so the Democratic Services Officer is aware and then let us know when you return. I expect everyone present and participating in this meeting to conduct themselves appropriately and be respectful to each other. That applies to members, officers, registered public speakers, and anyone in the public gallery. We haven't got anybody. Right, we'll move on to the agenda. Item 1, Jane, apologies. Are there any apologies, please?
Apologies, Chair.
Thank you. Declaration of interest. Members are reminded that they must declare the existence and nature of their declared personal interest. Anyone who declares an interest will be asked to wait in the waiting room when the time comes. Any declaration of interest? None. Okay. Item 3, urgent matters. I'm not aware of any. Jane?
No urgent matters.
Thank you very much. Item 4, Licensing Act 2003, opposed application of premises licence, Llandudno Hotel, Church Walk, Llandudno. Before I go, I'll do the hearing procedure first. That's pages 3 to 12 in your pack. The head of Regulatory and Housing Services, Mr. John Donnelly here, or his representative will briefly outline the application when we come to it. Then the applicant or representative will be invited to make their application and call evidence as appropriate. The objectors may be invited by the chairman to question the applicant and the witnesses. Members will agree these issues they wish to raise, the members here and myself, and we will ask questions. The chairman may also ask questions of the applicant witnesses on behalf of the subcommittee. Objectors will be invited to give evidence, call witnesses. The applicants may be invited by the chairman to question the objectors. Members will agree those issues they wish to raise with appropriate advice from Mr. Donnelly. The chairman will ask questions on behalf of the subcommittee, if we have any, and the objectors may make their closing speeches, and then we finish with the applicant's closing speech. Okay, I will guide you through that as we go along. First of all, I think we need to introduce ourselves. I'm Councillor John Roberts, as you know. Stephen, to my left.
Yeah. Councillor Stephen Price.
Councillor Hannah Fleet.
You're working, John. Sure.
Somebody's fixed me. Thank you, Chair. John Donnelly, Principal Trading Standards and Licensing Officer on behalf of Federal Regulatory Services.
Maya Roberts, Licensing Officer for Conway. Councillor Sharon Dolman.
I'm Callum Darling. I'm the operations manager for 147 Group.
I'm Emma Priestley and I'm the director.
Kevin Fine, Tuck, resident of Tinlow Street.
On Zoom, could you introduce yourselves, please? Silence.
Nashwan, can you hear?
Hi,
us?
sorry, my connection froze. I'm Nashwan Fazlani. I'm the solicitor for Conway Council.
Thank you. And who else? So Councillor Dave Jones up there.
Hi, Councillor Dave Jones, Glenmore Ward.
Thank you very much. Right, we'll carry on. And I'm going to ask Councillor John Donnelly. No, not Councillor John Donnelly. Head of Regulatory and Housing Services, Mr. John Donnelly. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Chair. I've been called many things, but never a
That's the
councillor so
worst,
far. Yes. Thank you, Chair. The Licensing Authority has received an application for premises licenses submitted in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003 in respect of the premises known as Llandudno Hotel Church Walks, Llandudno. The subcommittee must, having regard to the representations made, and take such steps as it considers appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. The subcommittee can grant the application subject to the relevant mandatory conditions and conditions consistent with the operating schedule. Modify the application and/or impose any conditions to such an extent that the authority deems appropriate to promote the licensing objectives. Reject the application. On the 14th of the 3rd, 23, an application was submitted to the licensing authority for Llandudno Hotel, Church Walks, Llandudno, LL30 2HG. The application and operating schedule are attached at Appendix A. The applicant placed all relevant public notice in public places, and public notices were displayed in the correct manner. Representations that have been deemed relevant by the Head of Regulatory Services and Housing have been received in respect of this application within the 28-day period. Representations objecting are attached in Appendix B. The applicant has agreed with conditions with North Wales Police in Appendix C. Members will note that in considering the application, they should take into account balancing the interest of the owners, employees, customers and neighbours of the premises, and the steps outlined by the applicant in the operating schedule, and agreed additional conditions to promote the 4 licensing objectives. The relevant representations engage the licensing objectives with regards to public nuisance. Members must note section 3.4, 3.45, 3.46, 3.9 of our Statements of Licensing Policy, in that the licensing authority will balance the potential for limited disturbance in neighbourhoods with the need to encourage and promote live music, dancing and theatre. The licensing authority acknowledges the power that the council and police hold to issue closure order on individual licensed premises that are causing nuisance as a result of noise emitted, and it would encourage the relevant responsible authorities to use such powers. Noise and disturbance arising from the behaviour of patrons that have left the premises are matters of personal responsibility and are the subject of police enforcement of the normal law concerning disorder and antisocial behaviour. Officers have carried out a site visit to ensure the plan and information submitted are accurate. The licensing authority is not aware of any mediation or discussions between the applicant and those making representations. Matters of parking in public places are not a matter that can be taken into consideration as part of this application, as the license holder applicant has no control of where any person may park in a public place. No requests have been made to view the application and operating schedule. If members of the opinion that more than one of the license objectives would be undermined by the operation, they are unable to overcome this by way of additional conditions, then the application should be refused. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. I'm going to ask the applicant. Is it Emma Priestley? She's going to speak first. Thank you, Emma. Make sure you speak it to the microphone, then we can all hear you. And those on Zoom. Thank you.
Okay. Do I just put my, my opinions forward?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
Is that okay if I do that?
Can he do that? Sorry,
Yeah.
he's my gentleman.
Yeah,
and
so-
you are Callum Darling,
Yeah.
right? Yes, okay, fine, Callum.
Yeah, so the main reason for the license application is obviously the hotel. We want to be able to provide food, and obviously when serving food, alcohol's occasionally served with meals. The aim isn't to entice people from the members of the public just to come there and drink, cause noise, cause nuisance. That's not our aims at all. As the residents are aware, we operate several bars and nightclubs in the immediate area. So not only does our management team and staff, they're fully aware of who known troublemakers are, who the locals on Pub Watch are. We're fully aware of that. That's something we will be looking to join as well. But again, it's not something we're trying to do to entice people into drink till all hours in the morning. The purpose of the 24-hour license, that was mainly for it is strictly to residents only. But again, that's not to entice residents to drink till all hours in the morning. That's not our aims. That's not our ambitions. We've got a proven track record with other venues where we work with residents. We change rules, we change procedures on our policies to work around our residents, to make it work for everyone, to not cause public nuisance, not cause noise pollution. So yeah, that wasn't the aim. I know it can be perceived like that by just reading the initial application. Obviously, initially we put in for a 24-hour license for the residents. We have night porters on duty, but they won't be there to serve alcohol. If it means us dropping the 24-hour license part, that's something we're happy to do, to keep everyone at peace. And the licensable hours, to stop at 11 o'clock. Again, the main purpose is to serve alcohol to people having meals. It's not to entice people into a public bar, as there's only a serving area of alcohol. So basically you take your seat, table service is in place. So we would come over to the table, take food orders, take drinks orders. It's not a place where people can congregate at a bar, be out till all hours, causing problems, making a noise. I've seen people that they're worried about the immediate vicinity, about people urinating in the streets, shouting and screaming. That's not the aims at all. It's pure and simple that we can get the kitchen up and going, get good food on the go and serve alcohol with that food. It's to put the point across, it's not to entice people into drink. That's not our aim. We've got proven methods and policies and procedures in place with other venues, where some of our venues have even won Best Bar None, down to our policies, procedures, how we operate, how we look after the public, how we work with our neighbours, how we work with the local licensing authority, how we work with the local police. So again, yeah, if anyone's got any concerns, yeah, come to us. But again, that's not what we're about. We're not trying to entice people to drink all hours. We're not trying to cause a nuisance where they're making noise. We literally just want to be able to serve alcohol with food being served mainly. That's the main priority. And then if residents at the hotel do go out for an evening meal and they come back at say 9, 10 o'clock at night, they can have, a quick glass of wine or a pint of lager before they go back to their room. It's not an invitation for them to sit on the balcony or sit in their rooms drinking at all hours, making noise, causing nuisance, littering, loitering. That's not our aims at all.
Thank you, Callum. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah.
Would you like to add to that? Fine, thank you very much. Now I'm going to ask the objectors if they want to ask questions.
If I may, Chair,
Yes,
just for clarity, and refer people to page 25 of the pack in front of them, the application itself is for the sale of alcohol will be available to residents 24 hours a day, and the sale of alcohol will be available to non-residents from 9 till 2300. So there is already clarity on what the application is. Residents only for 24 hours and non-residents 9 till 2300 on page 25.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. I'm sure everybody heard that, and we'll take that into consideration. Can I ask the objectors now if they'd like to ask some questions? And could I ask you as well, I mean, there are 3 or 4 of you, if you're not to repeat the question, if you just ask appropriate questions, but please don't repeat it, whatever somebody else has said. Thank you very much. Who's going first? You are. Could you?
Yeah, Kevin Fine, Tuck from Tinnos Street. 2 questions. One, the applicant just talked about being willing to accept reduced hours for the serving of alcohol, and there's been a press release to that effect. Is he saying that the applicant would now be content with an 11 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock in the evening license? That's the first question, Chair. Second question is, I just would be interested to know who the gentlemen at the back of the meeting are.
Members of the public, no consideration.
I can only introduce people who are put their names forward. Members of the public have every right to be here, okay? But I'll take your first question first, and I'll pass it over to the applicant. If you're willing to accept the 11 to 11, is that what you said? Yeah.
Yes, 100%. That's something we'd happily change the application to, where it's just 11 AM to 11 PM, and that's it. No alcohol for residents or non-residents after 11 o'clock.
If I may, Chair. Yeah, Chair, the applicant is, as per the application, you can consider what the applicant has said, but it is for members to make their own determination.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. Any other questions? Could you please announce again who you are and your question, please?
Hi, my name's Stella, and I live on Church Walks, so directly opposite the premises. I suppose one of my questions is with regards to the licensing, referring to 11 o'clock. There is a section within the application that was part of the pack that has a box that refers to additional requests, and it does refer to 24 hours for guests and their residents. I suppose I'd just like to highlight that as a kind of inconsistency in terms of the application that was put forward, and I suppose just adds to the concerns about making sure things are dealt with correctly. I suppose my other concern is about engaging with the residents and the local community, which you say you do with your other premises. However, it was, if you were willing to accept an 11 till 11 license, would it not have been best to put that forward first and engage with the community and show that you could do that responsibly before then putting forward for a 24-hour license? Rather, I'm sure you can hear by my voice, causing considerable kind of stress and distress to the local community by putting forward such well, what we believe to be an unreasonable application for the local community, where there are young children on both sides of the property, elderly people, people that work in healthcare, the hospitality industry, who are all just trying to make a living as well and want to live in a well-respected, known location. So I suppose that's my question to you. Why did you feel it was necessary to go forward with a 24-hour license in the first place?
Thank you very much. Could you turn your mic? Yeah. I did make a note of that, Mr. Donnelly mentioned that there was no mediation at all. So I'm sure that is the question that the lady is asking. Would you like to answer it?
Yeah, so originally when we put the application in, we'd done what most hotels would do and offer a 24-hour license for guests and residents. But then the reason for non-mediation, all we can do is apologise. And the director went off on a serious kidney operation, so she's been off sick. I know it's not ideal and it's not convenient for the residents, which all I can do is apologise. We've come a long way to come to this so far into this hearing today. Again, all we can do is apologise on the fact that we've not mediated, again, down to the applicant, the director, having a serious operation in hospital, which I'm sure some of you can understand can be, quite serious and under any operation. In terms of engage with the community, again, what we do in the other venues is we provide several phone numbers if there was ever an issue, which license and all our logs will back up. We've never, our on-site phones have never had to be rung from the other venues. There is a mobile phone that can be answered 24 hours a day that any residents have any issues with, any issues with, any worries or concerns, they can contact us directly. And then that way we can resolve those straight away. Again, in terms of, I'll go touch on it again, engage with the community in the past, all we can do is say sorry because the applicant was on a rest period after a serious operation. That's why we've done what we can to make sure we're here today to address any concerns, any issues, any worries, and such forth.
Thank you very much for that.
If I may, Chair.
Yes, Mr. Donnelly.
The applicant has carried out all the legally required processes to inform the public of this application. Although it's good practice to mediate, it's not a requirement, and the determination is, even with mediation, is made by this committee.
Thank you for that. We'll take that into consideration. Any other questions, please?
Respond that there are phone calls and routes available to contact people if necessary, if there is an issue. My personal concern is, I know that you've been involved with the premises for 12 months now, and the proven track record that you're talking about with other premises hasn't been demonstrated at the property in question, where regular and recent reviews for the property show that guests staying there are unable to contact anybody when they've got a problem staying at the property, which several people deem to be unsafe and not fit for purpose, aren't able to contact a member of staff during their stay to highlight that they've got issues, and when they do raise it, they're not addressed, which it doesn't give the sense that there's somebody on hand to deal with issues when they arise, which adding alcohol into that situation just raises the concern that how will things be dealt with? And I don't know what your other premises are, if they are bars and restaurants, but this you will have guests staying there as well, and their needs and the tourism and Llandudno's community needs to be met as well as running a profitable business, which I completely appreciate is what you're trying to do.
Thank you for that. You want to respond?
Yeah. So just touch upon the bars we have. So we currently own and operate the Fat Cat Cafe bar on Upper Moston Street, the Gresham, and Club 147. Club 147 that sees over 500 to 1,000 people come through the doors every weekend. It's one of the busiest premises in Llandudno. We've never had any issues with the license. We've never been brought to hearings or that. We operate it quite well. In terms of how the hotel's been run in the past 12 months, there's been a lot of closures in the hotel due to drop in trade. Obviously, as you're aware, Llandudno is a very touristy town. In the height of the season, that's when we do pick up and do get busy. We also have the Post House Hotel, which is on Llewellyn Avenue, which is a stone's throw away. We've now implemented 24-hour on-call staff in both hotels. Obviously, if successful with Llandudno Hotel being a licensed premises, we'll take it as serious as any other business. So with the license, we are looking to open it permanently with a permanent manager, also on-call staff available 24 hours a day. So regardless if there's no guests or is guests, there's going to be a new phone there for someone to, so rather than the guest have to make the call, there'll be a phone on reception that they can pick up, press on-call staff, and then it will ring three phones. The three phones would be one being my work phone, which is a new addition to what we're adding into the hotel. I live in Craigerdon, so any issues I can respond immediately. The other two numbers would be the on-call member of staff in the Llandudno Hotel, which will be there. They will be there all night. In the absence that they're not there, a secondary person will take over that call that will be there all night. And in the unlikely event that those two phones aren't answered, the third phone to ring would then be the on-call member of staff at the Post House Hotel. This is a new procedure we've been working on the past couple of months to make sure we're up and going forward. There's no loopholes, there's no issues, there's no problems. We want to make sure that every little area is sewn up. When we first got the Llandudno Hotel, we were new to the hotel industry. We've come a long, I think, like to say we've come a long way in the past 12 months, taking feedback on board from other hoteliers in the town, how they operate stuff, implementing our safety policy procedures that we implement for the bars into the hotel. Now we've got a good understanding of what hotel guests, residents in the street require us to do. I'm confident that we can fulfill the needs, what you're concerned about, making sure that if there is an issue, guests have got someone to speak to 24 hours a day. There is someone they can go and see 24 hours a day. There's notices and doorbells on reception area that can alert the on-call staff that there's an issue, someone needs their attention. So I'm confident that if there's an issue going forward, they will be able to contact someone, and that someone that is contacted will be competent enough to resolve any issues that arise.
Thank you very much. I hope that reassures you that procedures are in place or will be in place. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, please? Could you please state your name and ask your question?
Gillen, resident of Tudno Street. In a statement, the 147 made clear that they say they're willing to spend thousands of pounds on premises that they've overtaken. Now, we apparently are not allowed to discuss other premises here. 147 are.
If I may, Chair, I was going to interrupt, that I will have to advise the committee that they cannot take into consideration the operation of any other premises, including premises operated by this company, because they would be subject to different licenses, different conditions. Members should only take into consideration the operation, the potential operation, and the representations with regard to this premise. And prior to this application, there is no premises license, so no sale of alcohol or entertainment at the premises. So that is not a matter that can be taken into consideration. It's if members determine to grant this license that conditions and authorizations will be applied to this premise.
Yes, I thought we were going to apply only to these premises, Mr. Donnelly.
I was just so that
Yes,
the person was
thank
aware
you for
that.
that. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
May I continue, Chair?
Yes.
The Llandudno Hotel is in a state of, I would say, not disrepair, dilapidation. And so far, since 147 have taken it over, I have seen no evidence at all of a penny being spent on it. There are fences in a dangerous condition, walls in a dangerous condition, health and safety hazards in the garden area, which have not been addressed at all. And I think if you want to run a premises and bring it up to a standard, surely you should do that before applying for people to drink 24 hours, 7 days a week in that premises. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would you like to respond to that? And
Yeah, so obviously, I don't want to get into an argument. I fully understand what you're saying. I can see from an outside point of view how it can appear that we've not spent no money, but we have actually spent money. We've spent money on fire risk assessors to come round. They've come round, inspected the premises. That fire risk assessment is available for anyone to see at any time. That shows that the premises is indeed safe and suitable for members of the public as well as staff to work at. So going for the idea for this application going forward now is we are now at the stage where we're trying to invest in the hotel. A big part for us is an alcohol license will allow us to start serving food and alcohol, and that will bring more business to the venue. To invest in it, it needs to be a clever, smart investment. So the idea is if we can start trading alcohol and food, we can start investing vast amount of money into the terrace area, making that well presentable, new fenced, new flagstones, new gardens, new garden area where all the flowers and stuff are. Then as we go on, we can start investing inside the premises, give it a new look of life, new signage, make it an attractive place for members of the public to stay as well as eat and drink. Sorry. So that's the idea going forward now. I do disagree with saying that no money was spent on it. We have spent a considerable amount of money on it. Obviously, we're not going to go into it, but we've got bank statements, invoices, receipts to prove that. But the idea going forward now is to make a big investment. We have to make it worthwhile for both ourselves and the customer. So with this application going forward, we want to make it a nice present. Obviously, we're not going to open it with just the look as it is now. We want to start investing money into the garden, invest money into the terrace, invest money into the restaurant area, make it a good place, a nice presentable place for members of the public to eat and drink. That's our aims going forward now. Unfortunately, without an alcohol license, there's not much of an enticement for people to go there and eat. There's not much of an enticement for the guests to stay there and eat. So obviously that's why there's not been a vast amount of money invested into the front area. So that's our plan now, our next stage so we've operated the hotel for a year. We've got to know the hotel, got to know how a hotel works, got to know the area, got to know the layout, what we need to do. So I've spent a year of market research in the hotel, the operations side of it. Now we know going forward what our next plans are over the next couple of months. The first step is to get an alcohol license. If successful, then we can start investing in the kitchen, investing in a chef, then investing in the presentation of the outside of the premises. We can start making it a nice, presentable place, really tighten up on the clientele we get through the door, the clientele we've got in the area. We want to make it a nice, presentable area, nice, presentable premises for people to eat and drink. And obviously that's important to you guys as well, because on your doorstep, you want to go out, you want to see a nice presentable area, you want to see nice clientele, you don't want to see rowdy customers, all that sort of stuff. So that's our next aim and ambition, to spend a vast amount of money on the outside of the property, make that nice presentable. Then again, the next stage is invest money on the inside of the interior and make it a good place for everyone, guests and members of the public, to eat, drink and stay.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to come in with another question?
Sullivan's Apartments, part of the Llandudno Hotel. Is Sullivan's Apartments part of the Llandudno Hotel?
Mr. Donnelly.
The premises license application, the plan is attached and the apartments are not part of the application.
Thank you. Although they're in the same building.
Sorry, me again. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I really welcome the comments about the kind of focus on improving the clientele and the investment that's needed. And I think that's what we've all would be so appreciative to see, because it's in desperate need of it, and it's such a lovely building and such a highlight for people walking up to the tram. It would be lovely to see that and see that being happening. I suppose just two concerns: that it sounds like that's only achievable if there's alcohol supplied at the premises. The margins on alcohol aren't that big, and the investment that's needed in that property to bring it up to that standard is substantial. And having a sublease with a head landlord that's currently well, they're not the most reputable people. The investment that you'll need to make in that building as at a capital level will be benefiting that head landlord, that actually the head landlord has its own maintenance and property company that could have gone in and made that investment in the property. The risk is that the investment will be made. I don't know how long your lease is with them, but it's a big commitment to bring that property up to that standard when you don't own the property and the head landlord's got a mortgage, which only last year was obviously in dispute because they were trying to auction it off and couldn't sell it at any price.
Knew you're going to come in.
Chair, if I may, the operation of the premises prior to being a licensed premises is not a matter that members can consider. If members wish to make their own determination on the condition or state of the premises, you may adjourn, carry out a site visit and come back to this hearing at a later date. Otherwise, members should not consider that.
Thank you. Thank you for the question as well and the observations. All right. Cal?
If I can just touch upon this, just to reassure the residents. So the lease is a 7-year lease with the option to renew. So, so how it works, the landlord cannot take that property back unless we forfeit the lease. We've got the right to renew the lease. So after 7 years, he can't say we're having it back. That's not how the lease works with the premises. So I know we shouldn't mention it, but with some of the other sites, we've got the same sort of lease in place, and that's not stopped us spending tens of thousands of pounds on these properties. A lease is a secure thing in place to make sure that we've got that property for as long as we want to operate it for, regardless of their landlord's plans. If he auctions it off, sells it, whoever buys the property would take us on as a tenant, again, with the lease in place where they can't just take that lease back. It's a 7-year lease with the option to renew. So at the end of 7 years, we choose whether we want to carry on or not. It's not down to the landlord unless there's been rent arrears, which there hasn't been. We've been a perfect tenant. So yeah, that lease is for ours as long as we want it, basically.
Thank you for clarifying that. Are any other questions, please?
Just looking at the agenda, this is the point where we're questioning the applicant. Lower down, there's still the opportunity for objectors to actually give evidence. Yeah. Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I was just clarifying. Thank you.
Whatever you want to say until then.
Yeah, I haven't got any more direct questions now. Thank you.
There are no questions from the objectors. Members?
My first question is for John, just for clarification, that you mentioned that the other properties cannot be taken into consideration in this application. But I'm just wondering, is it prudent to ask how many other properties are currently owned by the applicant?
It's not Conway does not operate a cumulative impact assessment. We do not have stress areas. There's no restriction on members granting licenses wherever they may be, and members should not take into consideration the operation of any other premises in the vicinity or any other premises operated by this business, because they may be operating under different license and different conditions and different authorizations.
My question isn't in relation as to how those other properties are operated. My question is in relation to how many other properties are currently offered, and I'm wondering if the applicant would be willing to volunteer that.
I have to advise members, you cannot take into consideration other businesses and the operation of other businesses.
My concern is the lack of consultation that has not happened. That piece of evidence may not have been submitted to the objectors.
That's the purpose of these hearings, councillor. But that you cannot consider the operation of other businesses with regard to this application.
And again, I'm just wondering if the applicant is willing to volunteer that.
If the applicant is willing to volunteer that, you still cannot consider that.
Yeah, that's fine. We currently operate 10 other licensed premises from bars, cafes, and nightclubs. And in terms of your comment about, so we've made various applications from minor variations to full variations in the past, and we've never got to this hearing stage. So apologies, we are new to this part of it, because in all our applications in the past have always been successful. So apologies in terms of the mediation, in terms of the objections. This is very new to us. So with the sole director being off ill and recovering from operation, this has been very much in the air for us. That's why we've tried our best to get as much information together as possible for this meeting today. But yeah, in terms of your initial question, we have 10 other licensed premises that currently hold a premises license from bars, cafes, and nightclubs.
Okay.
And another hotel that is licensed as well.
Okay, thank you. My second question is in relation, which is what one of the applicants asked about the apartments at the rear of the property. I notice also that there's a Linden restaurant. Is that part of your establishment?
So at the moment, so the apartments, Solomon Apartments, I'm assuming that refers to the apartments downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
What they are is they are apartments for staff that work for various other premises. For us, sorry, what?
Okay.
In terms of Linden's restaurant, so the restaurant area, that's only used for breakfast at the moment. So it's run as a bread and breakfast at the moment. So when residents stay, they've got a buffet breakfast and cooked breakfast for them. So that restaurant area is solely used at the moment for breakfast. obviously with the aim to turn it into an actual restaurant with an alcohol license.
Okay. I've got some further questions. You've mentioned in your application that there is an outside space and it would be monitored by CCTV. Can I ask you, is that CCTV recorded or is it being monitored by a member of staff?
So the CCTV not only records, it's available for myself and the other directors and senior management team to view at any point 24 hours a day. It also records for 30 days with images capable of ID and facial, sorry, I forgot the words. The images captured are clear enough to see facial ID as what North Wales Police request, as well as other sites. Yeah, it's recorded 30 days. There's a screen behind the reception that live broadcast as well as recording for 30 days.
Okay. My follow-up question to that, are you registered with the Information Commissioner's Office in regards to that data? Because I'm
Yes,
just
we
going
are.
to check and I can't find you anywhere.
It should be under 147 group.
Yeah, it's
I've-
not on there. So just to reaffirm, you are registered with the.
Yeah,
Information
after this, I
Commissioner's
can try and find the certificate, but we've got a certificate in our sites under 147 group.
Okay. The application is for residents and guests. How many members of staff do you currently have?
Well, so for the London Hotel, we have 5, 1 new manager and the 4 staff. And obviously with a restaurant opening, we'll be increasing that staff number.
And in relation to the 24-hour alcohol license, do you intend to serve meals at 2 o'clock in the morning?
No. So as I said, and as I said before, that's something we'd happily walk away from the 24-hour side of thing. It was purely if on the basis that if someone came back to the room at say 12 o'clock and they wanted a bottle of wine or something to take back to the room. But again, having seen and read the concerns of the residents, the 24-hour license is something we'd happily walk away from and just focus on the 11 till 11 license.
Okay. And can you give me a distinction between resident and guest, and how would you identify somebody as a guest?
So resident and guest. So say a member of, say someone's staying in the hotel, and I would distinguish a guest as an immediate member of their family. So if someone's down visiting family, what I wouldn't distinguish as a guest is if someone went out and they met a couple in a bar and stuff like that. That was not what I distinguish as a guest. I distinguish a guest as someone that they immediately know very close and personal.
Okay. I think I've got one final question. You mentioned that you're going to be updating the premises. Do you have a timescale for that business plan for updating?
Yeah, so that I haven't got it with me, but it's something we can definitely bring back. So the time scale is between now and it's halfway into June of the completion steps with everything going on track. So with the builders being available, the joiners being available, electricians, as well as materials and supplies, if there's no issues obtaining them, sorry.
For the outside area.
Yeah, for the outside area, if there's no issues of obtaining them, it should be on track. But the yes or no is this application. So if we don't get the application, unfortunately, it's not something we can viably invest in because we wouldn't get the return on it. Yeah. But obviously, there's 2 separate ways we're going to do.
Sorry, if you could speak up, we didn't hear what you said.
Sorry, no, we do intend on doing the outside area regardless whether we get the application or not, because it does need tidying up. We're getting new furniture and everything from a hotel perspective as well. You know, if someone wants to sit outside and have a cup of tea, you know, who's staying in the hotel, it's not particularly, it isn't brilliant at the moment, but it will be in the next, I would like to get the outside done in the next month.
It's that everybody needs to do.
Yeah.
If I may, Chair, I just refer the councillor to the objections and the representations and the conditions supplied by North Wales Police on page 44 with regard to CCTV. And they are already agreed conditions and will go on the licence subject to your approval. With regards to residents and guests, a resident is a person that's registered at the hotel and is paying to be there. A guest is a person that comes to visit them. That application is for residents to be able to drink 24 hours a day and guests from 9 till 2300. So a member of the family who comes to visit them is not a resident.
So what are you saying, Mr. Donnelly? If a guest did come, they'd have to leave at 11 o'clock.
They wouldn't be able to purchase alcohol.
Alcohol after 11 o'clock. That's it.
And I think that's an important distinction, because how do you identify who a person as a resident or as a guest? And I think that kind of question needs to be answered in a more definitive way to reassure the objectors?
Members, there is legal precedent, and a resident is a person that's registered and is paying for a room at that hotel. And whether they say long-term or short-term, that's a resident. A guest is a person that attends to visit that resident and not staying at the hotel, so therefore would not be able to drink alcohol or purchase alcohol after 11 o'clock. And within this license, it's the sale of alcohol will be available to non-residents from 9 till 23. That means a resident would not be able to purchase on our behalf either.
Okay. One final point on that. How many guests can each resident have?
Once you book a room, the amount of guests you can have is up to you. But I would sure the hotel itself, as with every other hotel, will have a policy on what guests can and can't be in the hotel.
Okay. And sorry, one final question. Do you have a current policy in regards to guests?
Yeah, in terms of guests, so confined to the room is residents only, no guests. Guests can only accompany residents in food areas. So at present and for future, guests cannot go back to the rooms of residents to pay and stay in the hotel.
And that is part of your policy within your company?
Within the hotel as a standard now, yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, and we don't intend to change that policy either, just for the record.
Councillor Hannah, would you like to ask a question?
Are staff allowed to have guests?
No, they're not.
Councillor Dave Jones, I see you've got your hand up, but unfortunately, you cannot ask a question because there's only people on the floor here that can ask questions, or somebody who's put their names forward. Okay? Very sorry about that.
That's okay. Councillor Stephen Price asked my question. That's okay.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Right, we move on. I haven't got a question. All my questions have been asked as well. I'm now on what the gentleman pointed out. The objectors would be invited to give evidence or call witnesses. So that's up to you again. Nothing? Oh, go on.
Okay, thanks, Chair. As people will see from the agenda, there's been a whole number of points raised in the written objections, and these have been around the relevant areas of public safety and public nuisance. And I think it's very important that when the committee makes a decision, that they understand the background to why local residents really are concerned about the possibility of the extended license, which was what was requested initially. That if that was given, we think there's real issues. We already have issues in the immediate vicinity of the hotel. For example, last year, and this is on police records, there was a motorcycle stolen from opposite one side of the hotel and recovered from the area immediately facing the other side of the hotel. That same area where that motorcycle was found, there's other criminality. There's been stolen bicycles. There's regular use of it for people to relieve themselves in the evening after coming out of local premises. And I think there's a real danger that if the open-ended drinking, even for residents, is allowed, then it will raise a whole number of problems, or could raise a whole number of problems. We know there's other premises in the area, and I'm not, for example, are open till 4 o'clock in the morning. And if a resident of the hotel was to come out of one of those other premises and be allowed to continue drinking and move from one premise to another, to continue drinking, then I think it's very easy to imagine the sort of problems that would increase with that, which is why we're very keen that the committee does implement the license in the way that the applicant has said they would accept, which is the 11 to 11 license. If that's done, then clearly we're also hearing about the definition of residents and guests, and we're hearing that guests can't just be people who have been met in a local facility and invited in by a resident to come and join in for drinks. So that's important, that the conditions that the police have laid down will be adhered to. And I don't know whether this subcommittee can use the terms for avoidance of doubt, but certainly that about not having guests coming in randomly is important to local residents. Restricting the hours to 11 to 11 is important, and the controlling of noise, controlling of people's behaviour going into and out of the premises is absolutely important to local residents. The facility hasn't been run well in the past, and I'm sure and whether or not the committee can take that into account when they're considering this application, it's very important to local residents of the situations that have arisen around those premises in the past, which are on record. So we're looking for the applicant to actually be good to their words of what they're saying today. That again, for the avoidance of doubt, we really would look at control of the behaviour of the residents. We would look for the licensing hours 11 till 11 to be accepted and adhered to, and we would look for the definition of guests of residents to be applied strictly in the way that's been outlined. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. I now invite the applicant to respond to that. Mr. Donnelly wants to come in.
If I may, Chair, there's been no licence at this premises since 2016, so there's no responsibility on this premises prior to this application for anything that may or may not happen with regard to the Licensing Act. And I'd also refer members to our current policy, section 3.9, the noise disturbance arising from behaviour of patrons that have left premises, a matter of personal responsibility, and the police our streets, not licensed premises, so that's a matter for them. Members can take into account the behaviour of people leaving the premises and entering the premises. And with regards to guests, a guest can be a person you've met randomly wherever that may be, but they will not be allowed to purchase or be served alcohol after 2300.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. Would you like to respond?
Yeah, I know it's been said several times that we can't use other premises as an example, but what I can do is how, as an operator, we operate our other premises will be operated the same as London Hotel. So stuff we do in other premises, for example, it's our door staff. When they disperse at the end of the night, we carry on paying for the door staff to then go into the street and try and disperse. Although door staff have very little powers in streets, it's something we try and encourage them to do, to disperse people in the streets. Again, this is not what the plans are for the London Hotel. It's just giving you an idea of how we operate as an operator when it comes to licensed premises. We've got a very, very strong relationship with North Wales Police. I don't think you'd struggle to find a Llandudno police officer or Colwyn Bay police officer that would have issues coming to our premises or working with us. We've got next to none or no bad feedback from North Wales Police, from the local police officers to the police sergeants to even the police inspector Stephen Paulson. We've got a strong relationship with them as well. So in terms of crime and disorder, that's something we work very, very strong towards. Again, any of you are welcome to contact North Wales Police and see how we operate premises. It's a proven track record that we take crime and disorder very seriously. That's why we invest money into such things like CCTV and door staff. Again, touch wood, we don't need any of that in the Llandudno Hotel. Again, we're aiming to do food, evening meals with a drink. It's not to encourage people to binge drink, to come in and carry on drinking. We've got a very robust system in terms of responsible retailing of alcohol. So, you know, refusing people that are drunk, that happens across all our sites and would happen to any additional sites we take on board. I know the main aim for us is food and drink, but the London Hotel will also join Pub Watch, the local Pub Watch. So I don't know if any of you are aware how that works. So at the moment, each premises has a WhatsApp, each licensed premises in Llandudno that's a member of Pub Watch are part of a WhatsApp group. So anyone that's drunk, underage, causing issues, anything like that, they get put on this WhatsApp group. So all the other pubs are aware of who they are. I do believe, because so apart from the Post House, which again is another premises we operate, I could be wrong, but I do believe the additional hotel we're adding on will be the second and only hotel on Llandudno Pub Watch. None of the other hotels that serve alcohol are on this, but it's something we push towards because it can reduce crime and disorder massively. It can reduce aggro that residents get, especially refusing known troublemakers. At the moment, I've got a clear understanding of how it works. I'm working in town so long myself. If someone gets put on the Pub Watch app, they'll get refused more premises. They do venture to hotels on the front because they can get served there. That won't be the case in the Llandudno Hotel because we will be an active member of Pub Watch. We will have a clear and good understanding of who's been refused on the night, as well as who is actually on a Pub Watch ban. So again, touching on crime and disorder, I'm confident that that will not happen, as we'll have a good view of who shouldn't be getting served. Yeah.
Sorry, thank you for that. Mr. Donnelly wants to come in.
Yes, Chair, just to inform members that North Wales Police did make representations. There were concerns with regards to crime and disorder with regard to this premises, and the premises has agreed conditions with North Wales Police on page 44. One of those conditions is prior to being permitted to undertake the sale of alcohol, all staff, including any unpaid member of staff, family members and casual persons who may be involved in the sale of alcohol will be trained in their responsibilities under the Licensed Act 2003. In particular, they will receive training with regard to the service of alcohol to persons who are drunk, and they will be trained in Challenge 25. So I just need to clarify the statement that there were concerns from North Wales Police, otherwise they wouldn't have made those representations.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. We will take that into consideration. We now at a stage. Do you want to respond to Mr. Donnelly, or do you want to respond to?
If I'm right in saying that those concerns are something that North Wales Police would bring up to anyone applying for an alcohol license, it's not just. I'd like to say I'm quite confident that's not something specific to us. It's a general thing that North Wales Police would be concerned of with anyone applying for a license, and obviously we would give anyone that's involved in any trading of alcohol sufficient and intermediate training in serving alcohol ID and looking out for the things that people should, drunkenness, etc.
I can answer that question for members. Members are aware through previous hearings that other alcohol premises have not had representations from North Wales Police or any other responsible authority. North Wales Police would only make representations if they have concerns about the operation of a premises. Blanket conditions are not allowed within the Licensing Act, so North Wales Police can't apply the same conditions to every premise.
Thank you for that, Mr. Donnelly. Now then, I haven't got a question. Have you got a question? Huh? Right. We're now at the closing speech part, and the objectors, you can go first.
Sorry, just in terms of, yeah, I suppose I feel very worried now after those last few comments, and what is a mixed residential and commercial area is going to be significantly impacted if this go. I mean, even if this doesn't go ahead, I'm hoping that it's significantly impacted in a good way with the investment that's been discussed. Developing the outside area would be lovely to see, and seeing the hotel improve and having positive feedback from people visiting the area and attending the property would be amazing, because it benefits not just them but the whole of us and residents, businesses. I would ask, and I don't know if it's for this committee or somewhere else, that if there is development happening to that outside area, I don't know if that needs to have or can have any kind of noise report associated with it, because it is an area that's directly surrounded by properties that obviously got people living there. And while we'd be glad to see people attending and, like you say, the right level of clientele, it's obviously still the noise impact and how that's dealt with on a practical level. And yeah, I suppose it's a bit scary to hear about pub watch and door staff and things like that outside your bedroom window. But hopefully if it's done in the right way and managed in the right way, it will create a positive impact. Yeah, I suppose that's all. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to add to that? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, the representatives from 147 have stated on several occasions now that they're willing to accept an 11 to 11 license. I'm at a bit of a loss as to why they didn't apply for that in the first place, because this hearing could have been avoided. I personally have no objection to an 11 to 11 license for them. They're a business and they want to do business. That's fine. Also, I've heard no evidence at all of how many guests a resident can bring in. I mean, there's nothing here I've heard to stop somebody going down to another premises of theirs, which I'm not allowed to discuss apparently, but they are, the 147 Club, and which is open till 4 o'clock in the morning, and bring 20, 30, 40 people back with them. There's been no limit on the amount of guests that one resident of the hotel can bring back in. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. It's not a matter of people have or have not been allowed to mention businesses. My guidance has been to members to not consider it. Can't stop people saying things, but members should not consider that. With regards to number of guests, members may determine a number, but there will be a fire risk assessment carried out by North Wales Fire and Rescue Service, which will give a guide to the premises as normal. The licensing authority can't impose conditions that are covered by other legislation. With regard to noise, there's been no representations from the responsible authority for noise, which is pollution control, but that doesn't mean that members can't impose conditions that they feel appropriate with regard to the control of noise.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to ask the applicant to make a closing speech. There'll be no questions. Just state what you need to state as a closing speech. Thank you.
Yeah, so again, obviously the initial application went in for 9 till 11 alcohol for guests and non-guests, residents and non-residents, and then the 24-hour license went in. Obviously, we weren't aware of the impact that it could have had on the residents. That's why we've massively taken that on board, and we're more than happy to walk away from that 24-hour license after hearing your reviews and concerns. We can massively take that on board and appreciate what the concerns you have. At the end of the day, we want to work with you guys. We want to make sure that you've got a nice, peaceful area to live. So that's why we're so stringent on just making this food and drinks, not a social gathering. Again, you know, residents aren't allowed to bring guests back, whether they're drinking or not drinking. They're not allowed to bring guests back. It's residents only. The food and beverage side of things in the terrace, and when we're serving meals, will be open to non-residents as well as residents. But again, that's just for food and drinks, not for a social gathering to drink. So yeah, we'd happily walk away from the 24-hour license after hearing your concerns. I'd like to think that we've addressed all your concerns, reassured you with anything you've brought up. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for that. That concludes the public hearing part of it. We will now deliberate with the help of our legal advisor, Nashwan. And all I can say is thank you very much for coming this morning. Thank you for presenting your views very well, and also for the applicants for the things that you've said as well. And we hope that we can have some kind of conclusion that helps everybody in this situation. All right. Thank you very much. No, everybody can go now, can you?